these tonight.
Soybean market was up maybe 75 cents a limit today. I mean, you can't figure nothing. Two weeks ago, I should have sold. Goes up. I mean, it's insane. The market's crazy.
I didn't catch it last month, but we did approve with conditions again. Remember, we're making the motion with the conditions, and that's just yes or no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't catch it, my fault, but just make the motion with the conditions, and
Yep.
you don't have to mention conditions.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Was there something else? I think that's it. Speak in your microphones, because we don't have the normal recording that we normally do for this.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, November 1st, 2022 Clay County Planning and Zoning meeting. A few housekeeping rules, please. Tonight we will hear 4 cases. We will begin with a report from the Planning and Zoning staff that will summarize each case prior to any discussion the board members may have. We'll then ask the applicant to step up to the podium to ask or answer any questions and present support of their application. We ask the applicant to begin by stating their name and address for the record as these meetings are recorded. We will then ask for any public participation that may support the case being heard, and then anyone that may oppose the case being heard. Again, asking any participant to begin by stating their name and address. Please remember the topic of discussion needs to remain pertinent to the case being heard. The purpose of the Planning and Zoning Board is to hear the cases and make recommendations to the Clay County Commission. The Commission will review and decide the cases heard tonight on November 16th, 2022 at 3 p.m. in this room. And could begin tonight with a roll call of attendance.
Yes, Chairman. Terry Griffin.
Present.
David Rodas.
Present.
Mike Brinkley.
Present.
Brad Scarlett.
Present.
Marvin Davis.
Present.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Present. And we call for approval of the minutes of our October 4th meeting as presented.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a roll call vote.
Marvin Davis.
Approve.
David Rodas.
Approve.
Terry Griffin.
Yes.
Mike Brinkley.
Approve.
Brad Scarlett.
Abstain.
And Chairman Tom Decker.
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Very well. The first case we'll hear tonight is case number November 22-155F. And could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Chairman. Would like to add the staff report as part of the official record.
So be it.
So this is the final plat for Northbrook Farms. Got it pulled up on the screen. Just want to refresh you a little bit. You'll notice in your packet we're recommending a continuance, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But this, the rezoning and preliminary plat were approved in July, and in between the time period of July and now, the construction plans were submitted, and those are still in the process of being reviewed by the county on-call engineer. There's been some back and forth between the applicant's engineer and the county on-call engineer, and we currently don't have the county's engineer approval at this point, and that's one of the reasons we're asking for a continuance until the December meeting. But this is roughly 143 acres. It's zoned R1 and Ag, and it's off of A Highway. It's directly across the street from the Eagle View subdivision that was approved this year as well. Here is the plat. If you remember, there's a house off of A Highway, which is this 10-acre lot right here. They are extending the cul-de-sac into their lot and creating lots off of that cul-de-sac. There is a large, I think it's roughly 102-acre lot on the kind of the northeast side, and then some 10-acre lots as well. So a total of 5 lots. 4 lots have access off the cul-de-sac. The existing house is off of A Highway. Surrounding area, as I said, it's just north of Liberty and Kansas City is within the urban services tier, which is typically the area we want to see development. The approval criteria for the final plat, it basically states that it should match the preliminary plat. The plat does match the preliminary plat. Our concerns at this point are with the construction plans, and I think we'll be able to work that out. We'll talk about that here in a little more detail. The process that this goes through is the final plat would be approved by the commission. The developer installs the infrastructure. Everybody inspects and approves that infrastructure, including water, highway, all the fire department, all those outside agencies. At that point, the developer can record the final plat and sell the lots, and there is a 2-year maintenance period for that infrastructure with a letter of credit required. And after that 2-year period, the county accepts it into our infrastructure system. As I stated, planning and zoning staff is recommending this case be continued. I'm going to show you, let me get out of this and pull up the construction plans. So this is a little bit hard to see, but this is the existing, or the street that's going to be stubbed in. The cul-de-sac ends roughly over in here. This is the temporary construction entrance. And right now there's an existing pipe that sits right in the middle of this right-of-way that catches the storm water and sends it on the other side of this driveway for this lot to the south. The proposal is to move that pipe to the north side of the street that'll be put in to catch the storm water, extend it under the street, and then connect it to that existing pipe. So there's been a lot of discussion between the county engineer, the highway department staff, and planning and zoning staff, the best way to handle this, because the county doesn't want to be responsible for maintaining this infrastructure, this private infrastructure. But staff worked with our engineer to see if there was another way to do this and not connect the new culvert pipe to the existing culvert pipe. But the engineer did not feel like with the grade that was a possibility. So the only way to do it is to connect it. And in order to do that, we believe we need to get an easement and record an agreement as to who's going to take care of that basically private pipe, so the county's not responsible. The county will be responsible for everything within the right of way, but we don't want to be responsible for that infrastructure that's already there. So that's one of the reasons we want, or I know planning and zoning staff wants more time to work that out, because I don't know that we've totally hashed out how that should be. Highway department has indicated that they would like a little more time to consider this as well, and we don't have the approval from the county on-call engineer at this point. So that's the reason we're asking for the continuance to December. I think that'll give us plenty of time to get that approval and work out the issues we need to work out, and then the developer can move forward at that point. So I would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have, and the applicant is present as well.
What's the size of the current stormwater pipe?
24 inches, I believe.
Okay.
And that's another reason we don't know the condition of that pipe either. And that's another reason the county doesn't want to be responsible for that maintenance.
Do any other board members have questions for staff? If the applicant would like to step up to the podium, please.
Timothy Elliott, I'm here representing Steve Walker, the engineer, 1118 Tanglewood Street, Leavenworth, Kansas. As he stated, there's been a lot of back and forth with the on-call engineer. We've kind of given a little, taken a little. It's really just kind of a weird situation. There's an existing pipe it's in the existing right-of-way, but it's not the county's pipe. Kind of a weird situation. It's sitting in a bowl, and we're putting a crown road over it, so there's no other way to get the water out than to pipe it. And unless we just put a pipe right next to that existing pipe, we pretty much have to use that pipe. I would like to ask, if the pipe was replaced with a new pipe, do you think the county would consider maintaining it?
Chairman, do you want,
Yeah, go
I would
ahead.
defer to Terry on that one.
We'd have to look at the total site conditions before we can say one way or the other on that. The county really tries hard not to maintain any infrastructure that's on or under private property. So without knowing exactly what we're offering to maintain or so forth, at this point, I couldn't say. I mean, we're just still, there's so many things that are under consideration right now that I think we just need to hold off on making that decision.
And Chairman, that's kind of why we want that additional month, so those discussions can happen
Yes.
in that month's time period.
Yep, I understand.
I got a question. Is that pipe, is that gonna be on one of the lots that's gonna be sold?
No, it's on a lot with an existing house on it. Now, it just happens to be the applicant's brother's house, so that helps things a little bit. But the way I see it, that pipe was put in when that driveway for that existing house was put in. And whether they got permission or not to put that within the county right-of-way, who knows?
Kip, to clarify, one end of the pipe is on each side of the right-of-way. So one is on the applicant's brother's property and the other one is on it, the other end is on a different person's property.
No, the other end is in the right-of-way.
That's correct.
It ends in the middle of the
It ends in the
right-of-way.
right-of-way,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it basically is somewhere right in the middle of where that road would be.
I think if you scroll up on this sheet, you can see
Does
it.
it go up there?
Actually, you need to scroll to the,
There you go.
there, yeah.
There's a leader pointing to the end of it near Station 200.
So that's where the pipe is, and then this is where the right-of-way, I believe this is where the right-of-way ends, and this is where it ends up being on that existing lot that's not part of this development.
So, again, as you mentioned, we're trying to work with the situation that we have, and we need to come up with a solution, and we need more time to do that. We resubmitted the plans yesterday morning. Obviously, not a lot of time between then and now for the on-call engineer to review it. So we understand the issue of having a continuance, but we need to get this figured out, basically.
Well, it seems to me that the on-call engineer, the county staff, county highway, everyone's willing to keep an open mind and work together. You've got multiple other items on the exhibit that need to be addressed also, and it might be a good time to take a little extra time and clean it all up and get everyone on the same page and get everyone happy with what's going on. So,
Understood. Any other questions?
I do not have any.
Thank you.
Sir. Yep. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment in favor of the case being heard? No discussion. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment oppose the case being heard? If there's any further discussion from the board, I would entertain a motion to continue the final plat of Northbrook Farms as requested by staff.
I'll make the motion to continue.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any additional discussion the board would like? And we'll call for a roll call vote. This will be a yes, no decision, please.
Yes, Chairman, and I just want to clarify, we're talking about continuing to the December meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do we need to restate that motion, Andy?
All right. Then I would make a motion to, entertain a motion to continue the final plat of Northbrook Farms till the December meeting as requested by staff.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And so we have a first and second, and a supporting that motion would be a yes vote. Not supporting that motion would be a no vote.
Correct. Can we have roll call vote?
Marvin Davis.
Yes.
David Rotis.
Yes.
Terry Griffin.
Yes.
Mike Brinkley.
Yes.
Brad Scarlett.
Yes.
And Chairman Tom Decker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The next case we'll hear this evening is November 22-156 RZ/P. And could we have a staff reports, please?
Chairman, I'd like to add the staff report to the official record.
So be it.
This is the proposed subdivision of Lucas Estates. Currently, the property is roughly 30 acres. It's unplatted and zoned agricultural. This property is located off of Snow Road, and here in a minute I'll show you what these surrounding areas look like. The proposed subdivision is to subdivide the 30 acres into 3 lots. The average is about 9.8 acres apiece. Because it's under the 10-acre mark, these lots will be rezoned to residential ranchette or R5. There is already an existing single-family residence on Lot 1. These lots will be for one single-family residence only, and since these lots do not meet the 20-acre minimum exemption from rezoning, there is an agricultural land preservation included on the 3 lots. In addition to the 2008 comprehensive plan indicates that this property is located in the rural low density tier and the natural resources tier. The rural low density tier and natural resources tier both allow for 1 unit per 20 acres or a subdivision of land to 5+ acres, provided that a percentage of the land is preserved. In this case would be an agricultural land preservation. As I stated before, that they have provided this in the proposal. So this is the surrounding area. You can see up here, we recently, combined these 2 lots. Actually, excuse me, we split an individual lot up here earlier this year. That was the Crockett edition. This one is a fairly recent one as well. Another thing I would like to point out is that these lots that surround the proposed subdivision range from 1.5 acres to about 4.5 acres. This is our standard rezoning criteria. Staff believes that that the applicant does meet this criteria. This is what our process looks like. We publish this in the Courier Tribune. We send all adjoining property owners within 1,000 feet certified letters. In this case, we sent 29. We post a rezoning sign on the site, and then we go through the public meeting process. We received all the necessary approval from outside agencies. We go through this process because we want to be sure that we are creating buildable lots. Planning and zoning staff is recommending approval with 3 conditions that deals with changes to recording copy of the final plat, having the pond on Lot 2 inspected by the NRCS or a certified engineer. And finally, I'm going to go back to this slide with the proposed subdivision. Let's see. So on Lot 1, it's a little bit harder to see, but we can see this barn that's up the furthest north here. It actually is within the 15-foot utility easement. So one of the conditions that we're requiring is that the applicant will either need to move that barn or have that barn demolished before we record the final plat. We also, as Kip just handed out, received a letter of opposition from one of the neighbors, and we were unable to add it to the staff report, so that's why we're handing out the physical copy right now. Staff would be happy to answer any questions the commission might have, and the applicants are present.
All right, do you have the board members have questions for staff?
Are all the driveways on Snow Road access?
Yes.
Okay.
And Lot 1 has an existing house.
Correct.
Is there any other questions from the board for staff? If no discussion, if the applicant's present, if you can step up to the podiums, state your name and address.
Matthew Baker. We live at 812 North Grove Street in Kearney, Missouri. My wife's Kathleen, she's here as well.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Baker, are you familiar with and in agreement with the staff's report and their recommendations?
We are,
Okay.
sure. And if I might say just a moment, I just read the letter of opposition as well. And that's kind of one of the reasons we made it such big lots. I mean, we're taking 30 acres and making 3 10-acre lots when every surrounding lot around us is much smaller.
Yep, so, all right,
But we took that into consideration as well.
all right. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I don't. I think that there was one other issue that we had. We've addressed it, and
Okay.
I think we're to the point where we are able to meet all of the necessary requirements.
Do any of the board members have questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on the case being heard that's in favor? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to comment that opposes the case being heard? If there's no additional discussion, I would entertain a motion to approve the rezoning of the Matthew and Kathleen Baker application to Lucas Estates.
I'll move to approve.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion from the board members? I would call for a roll call vote.
Marvin Davis. I'm sorry, did you call for a roll call vote?
I did, yes.
Okay. Marvin Davis.
Yes.
David Rodas.
Yes.
Terry Griffin.
Yes.
Mike Brinkley.
Yes.
Brad Scarlett.
Yes.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'd like to roll right into call for a motion to approve the preliminary plat of Lucas Estates with the conditions attached as they're laid out in Exhibit A.
I'll move to approve the preliminary plat of Lucas Estates with the conditions.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
No further discussion. We'd call for a roll call vote.
Marvin Davis.
Yes.
David Rodas.
Yes.
Terry Griffin.
Yes.
Mike Brinkley.
Yes.
Brad Scarlett.
Yes.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The third case we will hear this evening is November 22-157F. And could we have a staff's report, please?
Chairman, I'd like to add the staff report to the official record.
So be it.
So this is the final plat for Lucas Estates. This is our traditional final plat criteria. Staff believes that the final plat is compliant with the approved preliminary plat and that it meets section 151-3.6D of the 2011 Land Development Code, and staff recommends approval with the 3 conditions. Staff would be happy to answer any questions commissioners might have, and the applicants are present.
Very well, thank you, Shane. Any board members have questions for staff regarding the final plat of Lucas Estates? If the applicant's present, could you step up to the podium, please? State your name and address.
Kathleen Baker, 812 North Grove Street, Kearney, Missouri.
Ms. Baker, do you understand and agree with the staff's report and the conditions they've set?
I do.
Very well. Do you have any questions for the board?
Would you like any of the concerns with the opposition letter addressed?
We'll get to that in a moment.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
I'm good.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on the case being heard that's in favor of the application? None being said, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment that opposes the application being heard? No additional discussion. I would call for a motion of the approval of the final plat of Lucas Estates with the conditions attached as set out in Exhibit A.
I'll move to approve the final plat with conditions.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any additional discussion from the board members? No discussion. I would call for a roll call vote, please.
Marvin Davis.
Yes.
David Rotis.
Yes.
Terry Griffin.
Yes.
Mike Brinkley.
Yes.
Brad Scarlett.
Yes.
And Chairman Tom Decker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The fourth case we'll hear this evening is November 22-158RZ. And could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Chairman, would like to add the staff report as part of the official record.
So be it.
So this is a rezoning only, no plating. It's for a small lot just south of 210 Highway, east of Missouri City. It's approximately 1.2 acres. Currently, you can see it's pulled up on the screen. It's that small lot outlined in yellow. It's roughly a little bit larger than an acre. It's zone C2. Mr. Staton has a conditional use permit for a billboard, so it may look somewhat familiar. And it was rezoned to the C2 in 1973. The request is to zone it to I2, industrial development. You see there's a little bit of a site plan up there. I'll let Mr. Staton kind of go over the uses when he comes up to the podium. But my understanding is he's got some ideas for some storage type uses of the property. So we included these pictures down below because there's obviously a dumping issue. There's a little spur off of Old 210 that where this property is accessed from. So there's a couple items that we look at as far as staff goes with our recommendation of approval for this. Is one, it's in a very unpopulated area. Planning and Zoning County Commission approved a rezoning to I2 that I'll show you here in a minute. That's just a couple parcels down. So there is some industrial zoning in the area, and we're also hopeful that by this lot being developed, that it'll also cut down on some of this dumping that occurs out there as well. So here's the surrounding area. Our subject parcel is right there. We just rezoned this I2 parcel. That's where they were going to load the barges with the concrete material. This one we're talking about today is actually out of the floodplain, so that is a good thing about it. It's right there on the edge, but not in the floodplain. And there's also, you can see these other lots are zoned commercial as well. So it is surrounded by commercial and industrial zoning, has good access to 210 Highway. MoDOT has not raised any objections with this. It has the same 5 rezoning criteria as any rezoning case has. It follows that same process. We only had to send 4 adjoiner letters for this case because it's, like I said, it's not very populated. We did post a rezoning sign on site, and it follows our normal process of Planning, Zoning Commission and County Commission. And staff is recommending approval with the one condition, and that's if the owner has a change of use, that they notify the Planning and Zoning Department before that change of use occurs. With that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have, and the applicant is present as well.
All right, thank you, Kip. Any of the board members have any questions for staff? No discussion. I would ask the applicant to step up to the podium and state your name and address, please, sir.
Fielding Staton, 1113 Aspen Drive, Liberty.
Mr. Staton, are you familiar with the staff's report and their only recommendation, the exhibit they're asking for?
Yes.
Could you expand a little bit on the site plan that?
Sure.
Maybe if Kip, if you could back up, you've got the kind of
Sure.
green buildings and the
Guard
purple
shack.
guard shack, yeah.
So the plan is to pour a concrete approach into that. It is on a what was old tin highway. There was a spur that MoDOT milled up, stopped at that property. So it kind of is a place where people go back in there and throw tires, and there's a boat even somebody dropped back in there, which I don't know how it got in there. But what we'd like to do is use 20-foot, 40-foot containers. These are ocean containers, so these don't have wheels. So we drop those in there, and those would be storage for some businesses that I deal with. Also, my brother has a small trucking company in Carrollton, runs back and forth in Kansas City. So we'd be using the property to store equipment, retail items. One of our customers has ladders that they store in containers, so big box store stuff. So we would fence the property. We'd like to use millings because these things don't have wheels. They destroy pavement when you drop them, so they just kind of dig into the ground. So we'd like to just do a concrete approach and then fence it, chain link, razor wire, and then millings. So that's the plan. The guard shack is a mobile unit. It's self-contained. Even waste is self-contained, so it'd just be pumped. No sewer or anything would be put on the property or water or anything. It'd all be just brought in there. So, and it's just really to keep it safe if there was something really valuable being stuck out there. Because it's out there in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you all know where that is, between Missouri City and Oric, but if somebody was out there, they have a long time to see a car coming. It's nice and flat. So
probably part of your approach would be to get rid of all the trash and kind of tidy up the site.
Of course, yeah. MoDOT actually has asked us to take that spur. They don't want it, so we might do that. They'd assume it'd be chained off and prevent that because there's nothing down there but us. So our property's the only thing that's accessible really there. So I wanted to do it, but they're just, please take that thing off of our hands. So because this is what you see is what happens.
Another thing in the staff's report, they're approving the recommendation for rezoning, but they do have one condition, that if the intended purpose of, or the intended use of the property changes, that the P&Z would be notified.
Sure, no problem with that. Yeah.
Do any board members have any questions for the applicant? All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Yep. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment in favor of the case being heard? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment that opposes the case being heard? No further discussion. I would entertain a motion to approve the rezoning of Staton Industrial to the I-2 district with the one condition attached in Exhibit A.
I'll move to approve with the condition.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any additional discussion that the board would like to have? No further discussion. I would call for a roll call vote.
Marvin Davis.
Yes.
David Rotis,
Yes.
Terry Griffin,
Yes.
Mike Brinkley,
Yes.
Brad Scarlett,
Yes.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, I think that concludes our meeting unless staff has any additional comments.
Just a couple quick ones. We will have a meeting next month, unless something drastic happens. And then the two previous cases, Forest Rocky Creek and the LDC amendment for the cell tower, were both approved by the county commission. They did not change the cell tower amendment at all, so it was approved as planning and zoning recommended. And I think that's our update.
Well, very good. We'll adjourn the meeting.
You almost beat me.
You know, I ran into a guy.
Yeah, there's no. Oh, sure. Marvin's gonna show me up forever, huh?
You know, it's gonna be hard to show him up after 10 months, that's what I'm saying.
I'm glad. And even,
You know, forever good when there's so much.
Yeah, I know.
He says, yeah, we go over there and visit with him. He said, it's unbelievable how they've cleaned it up, how they take care of it.